Hello, I'm Matthew Croxford. Welcome to our series of simulated debriefs. We put these together to support you, our accredited practitioners, in your ongoing learning and development. We have chosen some commonly found profiles that you would experience whilst debriefing the LSI. Each present a unique set of challenges and opportunities, and of course each individual their own unique response to that feedback. What you'll see are some professional actors who have been briefed, but in trying to remain as true as possible to the debrief process, each of the debriefs are unscripted and were shot in one continuous take. If you have the time, I'd strongly recommend you watch the entire debrief from beginning to end to allow the conversation to unfold and develop. Alternatively, you could watch it in chapters. Either way, we hope you enjoy these videos and they prove useful to your ongoing learning and development. Hello, I'm Matthew Croxford. From time to time in debriefing LSI, you get an opportunity to make a real difference to another human being's life. What follows is a debrief that I did with Sarah, and I leave the debrief feeling a real sense of being able to help Sarah move forward in her life. When Sarah arrives for the debrief, you can see clearly that she's quite flustered. She's very nervous and is quite concerned about the process, especially what LSI2 will look like. So what follows is a process where I gently take her through the feedback with a view to trying to help her calm down, get some value from the process, and help her leave in a more positive state. Hello, Sarah. Lovely to see you. Thank you for your time. I just want to check that we're good for the next couple of hours.
Yeah.
Great, thank you for that. Now, we're following on from that workshop we had last month where we just introduced some of the concepts. You know, you're familiar with the aspiration of the organisation, do some work around culture. And this is the next step, to be working with some of the key leaders in the business and helping them understand how their behaviour might have some impact on the culture of the organisation. So we've got a couple of hours and I've got a stack of information here to go through with you. There's a couple of things I want to say up front if I could. First of all, everything we talk about today is completely confidential. I don't share anything with anyone. The feedback goes from me to you, and so what happens is we hope that you become really quite interested in what's here and take the opportunity to try and flesh it out with some other people along the way, but you're under no obligation to do so, so it remains completely confidential. So I also say is...
So when you say that, so the business doesn't...
No, I don't report back. So I've got a number of these sessions coming up, and what I've committed to is I will report back on themes. So I would say that the senior leaders in the business, here are some recurring themes that are going to come out of it, but nothing you and I say will leave here today. That's my guarantee to you. Okay. Now, the other thing I say is that I don't look at the feedback beforehand, because I don't want to have any preconceived ideas. So when you see it is when I see it. So my preparation is a little different, so I just want to make sure that it's as authentic and honest as possible. So I'm looking forward to uncovering it with you as well and trying to understand what this means. So now I'm going to take a few notes as we go along, just so I remember some things along the way. So tell me, if you would, tell me a little about your role. What do you do? And look, assuming it exists, what does an average week or month look like for you?
What's an average day look like?
Really?
Well, I'm a customer service team leader.
Yeah.
the area in which I'm the team leader, I used to work in as a team member. So I've been promoted into this position. I'm trying to think. You know, honestly, it's only been 6 months. I have to say, it feels like about 4 years.
Really?
So I'm the manager I report to. Made it quite clear when I took the position, because I do have a lot of technical skill, which I'm proud of. That part of the role was going to involve, for use of a better word, whipping the team into shape.
Right.
Call centres are unwieldy beasts, and it's hard work, and there's a lot of churn, and there's a lot of movement, and it feels like you're managing an emergency department some of the time.
Right.
But anyway, it's been a tricky time. In that many members of this team are good friends of mine.
Right, yeah.
And so shifting from working alongside them to leading them has had its moments.
It's tricky, that, isn't it? I mean, I personally was in a situation like that some years ago, and it's tricky.
Yeah.
Look, we'll get into how that might play out in some of the feedback. What... it's a challenging environment for you, but what takes your time? If you think back over the last week, what does that look like for you?
Honestly, on a day-to-day basis, it could be anything.
Right.
So I may have anything up to 3 meetings a day with members of my team or reporting upwards. I often we'll just have to deal with something that's landed on the day. We've just gone through this flu season, and on any given day we had 7 or 8 people calling in sick.
Wow.
So then I had to cover that and ask big favours of others to work in on days that they were scheduled not to work, blah, 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 and, sorting all that out. So, it feels sometimes, at the moment at least, that I can't look beyond a couple of days ahead.
Right.
So as much as I would like to plan ahead and get a bit more flow with it, I do feel like there's a bit of crisis control, especially at the moment.
Yeah.
It's particularly bad, and this last month has been particularly bad. I'm hoping it happens. I've lost a couple of good key people, and we did recruit another 2 that haven't quite worked out the way we had hoped. So they're needing a fair bit of support at the moment.
Okay. How did you get into the role? Have you come up from a call centre background yourself?
Yeah, no, I have come from a call centre background, and with another insurer, and then moved across to here, and felt quite comfortable in that role. Call centre environments are volatile.
Yes.
I think in banking and insurance, and especially when people are calling up. Oh, look, 80% of the time it's fairly straightforward. You can fix the issue. Yeah. But there's going to be multiple times a day where you simply don't have the information that someone's requiring of you, and or they've come in with a lot of anger because they've just found out something from someone else at the call centre that they don't like, and they're trying to ring through to get a different answer. So, you're dealing with a lot of that.
I mean, there's I've been lucky enough to work with a number of people over the years who've worked in call centre environments. There's different, for want of a better description, types. There's the high volume where there's a lot of KPIs around, moving calls over a certain period of time. You've got 5 minutes to resolve that issue, or it escalates. Or there's the lower volume, deeper connection with customers. Where do you sit in that?
I think we're kind of in a transition of going about halfway.
Okay.
I would suggest that we were more. The time that we can spend is crunching down,
right.
So there's quite a bit of
there's a lot of KPI drive.
Yes, and for the more chatty members of our team, that's they feel like they are not giving the level of customer service that they, or the good experience might be a word that they would use, that they were able to deliver because they're clock crunching.
And that kind of, I mean, to what extent does that put you in a challenging situation? Because, you know, in some cases I've heard people talk about being a little bit in the middle of the sort of meat and the sandwich here.
I understand what's driving the need for there to be, for people to not have to wait as long on the, and to, you know, I understand the need for there to be less time spent.
Yeah.
But I also appreciate that you have to take each individual as it comes, and that's the message I'm getting from my team, that, okay, we won't have a chat about the weather with someone whose business can be resolved quickly, but the individual who needs to be spoken through a process, and you know, maybe something reasonably traumatic has happened and they want to talk about it, that it would, you know, that they don't want to shut them down because their time is running out. So it is just managing that, but I can see the necessity for it. It's just trying to support my team. Let's just say there's a reasonable amount of whinging about it.
Right, okay. I wonder if this is going to come out in the feedback. Let's see as we go. Let's think back over the last 6-8 months.
Yep.
What are you happy about? What's gone well?
At work?
In general. What's top of mind for you around what's gone well?
I don't know. I mean, nothing too calamitous has happened, I guess. My kids are reasonably well, and my husband's well, and we haven't smashed a car or anything in the last 6 months. So everything's okay. Finding it a bit hard to think of anything that's gone particularly well. Look, sometimes, honestly, Matthew, sometimes it just feels like getting through the day and managing everything I've had to manage without it turning into something else is a success. So I don't know if I can actually say if there's anything that's gone particularly well, but let's just say nothing's gone particularly badly.
Okay. That's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Is there anything that stands out for you that you're personally happy about?
I don't think there'd be a day at work where I didn't sort of wish that something had landed in a slightly different way. Not so much my participation in something, but you know, when I come in, I think my first thought is, oh, who's off? Who has to leave, who's got an issue, who needs to talk to me now. I sometimes wish I could just lock the door for 15 minutes and get my thoughts together before the day starts. But oh, look, there's, I mean, no. I at the moment I feel like I'm just getting through. I'm coming up to breathe every so often. It feels a bit like that.
It sounds like a really tough place you're in.
It feels. Sometimes I wish I could just say, okay, well, you deal with this today, and I'll go back on the phone, because that's I feel comfortable. I quite enjoy just. Sitting with, if I have got the opportunity to coach, just sitting with them, because that's where I feel that I have the skill, and there's also aspects with our system that I feel I'm quite good at. So I try and help people with that as much as I can.
So why do you think why were you chosen for the role? How did that come about? Were you chosen? Did you put your hand up for it?
A bit of both.
Yeah.
I'm definitely of an age where, you know, I think it was important for me to move in some direction, and financially, that was a reasonable incentive as well, a big incentive actually, and so look. I don't think I ever really appreciated what the role involved, and maybe it would have been different if I'd started the role in a new business. But it has been challenging leading the older members of my team. I've found that quite difficult.
So, well, it's a lot. I can feel. I'm picking up from you a sense of there's a heaviness. There's a lot you're carrying on your shoulder. Yeah.
It feels. I feel like I'm running a marathon most days, and then even driving home, I'm answering someone's returning calls or following through on something or doing something for my children's school or working out something that my parents need or whatever. So at the moment I don't feel like I've got any much downtime, and the weekends are increasingly full of my children's activities.
Yeah. Well, let me check. Is your phone off at the moment?
I think it's on silent at the
Good.
moment.
Can we? So let's see if we can get the best we can out of these next couple of hours for you. Yeah. So let's see if we can understand the feedback and see if there's some, even give you a bit of space, a bit of breathing space. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Now, you've talked about a lot of challenges that are in place for you at the moment. So there's the challenges around the KPIs and the needs and the drives of the business. You've got the challenges coming up from staff in terms of perhaps a change in the way things are operating. You've got some challenges in terms of just getting through the day, the sheer pressure of that. Sometimes there's some issues around some absenteeism, unplanned absenteeism,
way too much.
all that sort of stuff. I'm also picking up for you there's some challenges outside of work as well. So what's life like there? Share as much as you're comfortable
I think
with.
it's just a pretty common scenario. We've got kids who are heading into the HSC, so a lot of demands on them for school, and I don't really know, to be honest with you, how it's happened, but there seems to be a ridiculous amount of extracurricular stuff going on, so that's financially insane. My son's guitar lessons have just nearly doubled. I don't even know what's going on there anyway. But so honestly, my husband works Saturdays, so
it's you, huh?
I just feel like I'm a ferry service, and I don't know what's happened to Saturday. Saturday's just gone. So I feel like there's like one day of the week, and that one day of the week is still, honest to God, ironing and washing and cleaning and cooking and shopping and
back on the treadmill.
Buying my son shoes he keeps growing out of. Without actually scheduling like a day off, I'm almost finding it impossible to slot in anything.
Yeah.
And people invite us to dinner and I just want to say no.
Yeah. How long has it been like this?
Oh, a few years.
Right.
I'm kind of looking forward to sounds terrible, but I'm looking forward to my children finishing school in the hope that they'll have their own licence and can actually look after themselves. So I think I've heard from friends that actually does lighten up a bit once they get to 18. Right? So we will see. But my husband's working long hours and my parents are increasingly ring me a number of times a day, and which I'm pleased about. But that's just stuff that they could have handled easily on their own, even just 2 years ago, becoming a little bit problematic. Yeah. So there's that in the back of my mind as well.
So what occurs to me is there's all this stuff up here, and at the centre of it all is you. And if I may, you sound tired.
I am stuffed.
Right.
I feel like I could fall asleep right now. I'm not going to.
Thank you. Yeah, I wouldn't take it personally.
If you put some nice music on, I'll wait on the floor, I'd be gone.
Now, why don't we think a little bit about, so what would you like to get out of this time? I mean, given where you're at with, the challenges in front of you, all these, the analogy I have is you sort of juggling all these balls in the air,
Feels like I'm
or spinning plates. Have you seen those people spinning plates?
Exactly right.
Right. Got to make sure it keeps spinning.
I heard someone, can't remember, it was some panel show, someone talking about having children, and it just keeps popping back into my head. It's not just about the kids, it's about everything else. About having children is like you're walking through a lovely big park and there's someone with a kite in the air, a big massive kite in the air, and it's a beautiful windy day and they're doing a beautiful job keeping the kite in the air, and they say, oh look, I've just got to go, can you hang on to my kite and keep it in the air? Yeah. And they walk away and they never come back. And that story just keeps coming back to me, because it is a bit like that with kids, but because your life just never changes. But it feels like I'm just trying to keep this kite in the air at the moment, and I've just got everyone pushing me and tugging me, and it's hard to keep it up there.
It is. Now, here I've got some these, please. And look, take your time, okay? We've it sounds like a really challenging situation for you. So if there's the goal here would be to get some value out of this for you in terms to perhaps release some of the pressure and help you move forward a little bit. So let's. What would you like to get out of the next couple of hours?
Well, I think I would like to understand this a bit better, because I remember going to the workshop, but that was a particularly full-on day, and I probably didn't hear it quite as well as I should have. So I would like to just get more clarity on exactly what it is and what we're going to look at.
Okay, all right. What else would be, if you think back, so we've spent 2 hours in this room together, and you walk out of the room and feel lighter. What would that look like?
Well, I mean, I think I've been a bit nervous about how that I think it's the LSI2 might look. I'm not expecting it to be particularly positive. So I think maybe even just getting that over with will make me feel a bit less dread. So yeah, I mean, look, if I'm not quite sure how, but if that were possible, then okay. Great.
What would you like from me over the next couple of hours?
Just to talk me through it, and forgive me if I ask any dumb questions.
You can ask as many questions as you like. My sense is the dumb questions are often the ones that really uncover something valuable, so forge ahead with the dumb questions. I would encourage you. So talk through, help you understand it. One of the things I've found has been really quite helpful with people I've worked with over the years with this is to challenge some of their assumptions. So as long as I do that constructively, how is that for you?
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Now, okay, lovely. That's some great background. So thank you for sharing that and being so honest around where you're at. What I want to do is talk a little bit about, and what this does, it helps me bring the profile to life. As we see it, it'll help me sort of understand, okay, does this relate to this and so on. During this setup phase, my goal is to ensure that Sarah is present. I check that she's okay for the 2 hours. The last thing I want is to have to short-circuit the conversation towards the end, and that she also will not be interrupted. So we agree some housekeeping rules around telephones and making sure she's present. I ask some exploratory questions, because what I'm trying to do is to gather some background information so that when the profiles come out, I can bring them to life. So I ask her questions about her current role, what's on her plate right now, what she spends her time on, how her time is taken. I ask her what she's proud about and what goes well. I ask her about her challenges, her aspirations, and what she'd like to get out of the session, and importantly, what she would like to get from me. You'll have noticed that one of the things that Sarah really struggled with was what was going well in her life. If you look carefully, I asked the question 2 or 3 different ways because I'm trying to draw out something that's positive for this poor woman who's really struggling with the weight of a huge amount of expectation on her shoulders. Partway through this setup phase, you can see that Sarah begins to get quite emotional when she starts to realize the sheer pressure that she's under. Rather than reacting to that emotion, what I do is give her some space. I calmly grab her some tissues, give her some space to gather herself, and we move forward.